Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. Let people know that I've gone live. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, I am Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and I was just taking my own lesson. Last night I had done my live show. Oh, just way too late. I had no energy. It's like the bottom of the peanut butter jar. It was like the very bottom of the milkshake, and I was coming to the table, right? Because of my own commitment to myself, in that accountability that I show up fresh like a loaf of bread every single day, that my eyes, I can barely keep them open. And I came into my live last night with zero, with absolutely nothing. And I really felt that aloneness with the lesson. I felt it. I felt that Cindy was there all by herself. And, I said, right, okay, I'm showing up live. And it might not be the most perfect live, but at least when I hit that end on my, right, that end stream, that I can feel proud of myself, that at the very least I showed up, even though I think I failed myself in allowing myself to go so late into the evening before I, right, showed up. And that's the thing. That's the word, two words, showing up, right? It's just not a matter of, I'm here, right? It's a matter of, I'm here, right? Okay. Like this is the lesson. And I didn't, after my live show last night, I didn't want to go back in. Usually right after my live show, I go in, I put the fonts on my thumbnail, right? And then I go in and I take the lesson for myself, right? And I'm actually taking the lesson for myself because I get into such a flow sometimes that I miss so much myself. But I ended that live last night thinking I did a terrible job. How dare you, Cindy, show up and offer nothing to the people who give their time every single day, possibly, to sit with you and take in a lesson. And that's what you showed up with. I couldn't even watch my live last night. I didn't, right? If you go into my live right now, you see I didn't even put the fonts. I didn't even want it to be on my channel. I was so disillusioned with myself. I got ready for work, and I got ready real fast, gave myself a little bit extra time because it was with intent that I would sit here, and before I went live today, that I was going to go in and I was going to watch my live for last night. I was going to take my lesson, even if I looked like such a fool that I had nothing to offer, if it was going to embarrass me so much that I could see the lack of energy, that I was a big fat you were going to sit there, Cindy, and you're going to watch that. Okay, I got ready for work, and I sat there and I turned the live button, didn't even make myself a cup of coffee. I got the cold one that I had before. And I went into my live. And I sat there and I watched it. And not only did I watch it, I took the lesson in, because there was a lesson there that Cindy showed up no matter what, that she showed up, and she didn't just show up. She showed up. And I was so humbled by that, because Cindy couldn't commit, but those other parts of her did not let her fail. There was a lesson for me, and hopefully a lesson there for somebody else, right? Because I talked to myself. I got up this morning and I just watched. I've been up for a few hours, you guys. Like I could have watched that at any point, right? But I was so disillusioned with myself and what I had brought to the table that I didn't want to take the lesson in. And yet, if I had, I might have given myself a break. I might have given myself a pat on the shoulder. I might have given myself that recognition of, right, if those other parts of me don't show up, Cindy will show up. And if Cindy doesn't show up, that I can trust those other parts of me are going to show up. I'm going to say it just because it came to my mind. Like when I went in for job interviews, it was one of the worst experiences ever, having to go in, and it was such a demeaning, such a begging please. Oh, it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling, right? To ask for a job. And I build myself up sometimes. And when I look at this word anxiety, right, and I look at it, how it affects into my life, this is as close for me as I get. But that feeling when, and I always needed a job, always. I didn't like applying for work, but I wouldn't have a roof over my head if I didn't, right? So I had to overcome my fears. And it was that miracle that would work myself up to a frenzy. Somebody said, okay, come in Friday. And it's only Monday and I've got a job interview on Friday. So I would beat myself up from Friday to Monday thinking how I was going to impress, how I was going to get this job, how I was going to get on board. And I'd work myself up into such a frenzy, like such a worried, stressed out frenzy that I would just wish somebody would cancel the interview, or possibly I could talk myself out and just not even show up. And I get to the interview, and you don't know who's behind that door. You know, in the first 90 seconds, they're going to make a judgment on you. They're going to decide whether or not to give you a shot to bring you on board. You know that, right? And you want to put your very best foot forward. But now you're a mess, full of anxiety, full of self doubt. And you open up that door, and when I was going to say, right, when Cindy can't show up, that something else shows up. And I always shined in interviews. If I didn't get a job in our interview, it was not meant to be, right? It was a job I didn't want. And it did happen to me one time when I applied and I went in for the interview. And the moment I laid eyes on this person, I knew. I knew. But what you think about is realized. And it was realized, and it didn't bother me in a least because my intuition told me, right? My intuition, I knew, right? And so I walk into a job interview, and the very best of me would come forward. Cindy would disappear somewhere else. But something, right? Okay, courage. You're taking the job interview today. Do a good job. Show us proud. Get me that job, right? And it always worked out. So the lesson for me in today, in those, and we do have this word goal setting, but it's part of that process, right? In our goal setting, that we can have that self doubt, right? Right? We can have all the faith in ourselves as anything, right? But sometimes we can leave ourselves short. Sometimes we can listen to the wrong advice. Sometimes we have to step a little bit outside our comfort zones. Sometimes we're not willing to do that. Sometimes we have to rely on parts of us that can do the job when we know we can't. And sometimes we have to come in and take care of, right? It's that mutual respect and that mutual understanding that, right, when I have a weakness in myself, that could be a strength that I have somewheres deep inside And sometimes this is just a matter of, right? Attention. I need you. Step forward. And I stepped forward last night, and I'm going to step forward a little bit more by, right, in appreciation. Oh, and on top of that, I have to say, I was truly frustrated. I had tangled up all my wires into my income tax return last night, and I figured it out. And I'm getting my dental work done. I was overtired. Not only was I so overtired that I felt I couldn't come up and show up here, but because I was so overtired when I was doing my income taxes and I knew it was a simple answer and I just wasn't getting it, but I was frustrating and just making a bigger jumble that right after my life just went right back because I never give up. So I went right back in and I spent another half an hour, but only a half an hour, right? Only a half an hour. And I had figured it out. So yeah, I'm getting an income tax return. This year is not the year that I'm paying money out in taxes, but I would have. You saw in my face, you saw in how I accepted, right? Because I don't cry over spilt milk, right? If that's my responsibility to the government, right? That's my responsibility to the government. The government has taken care of me so many times, and that is the truth. And I think for the most part, we do want to move together, right? There is that pride and that unity in that. It's only in the butting of heads when we don't show up for each other, right? That could trip us up in the end. Okay, how do I tie that into goals? I would just want to share that. It was important for me to share that because it was a lesson for me. And if you had come into my live yesterday, maybe it was a different lesson for you because I jibber jabber a lot, but a lot of stuff, right? But it's in the layering that sometimes that we can just catch a hint of a direction or a realization. And that's the truth. I was so frustrated today. I have notes and notes and notes on the topic, right? Pages, right? Not in just singular. We're talking plural because I was trying to take a lesson out of it, right? And I really did, right? Uh, Sometimes we do feed on ourselves, right? And it is my dynamic upbringing, and I just have to realize that I have some very controlling and headstrong strong traits, right? And that's okay, right? Because I did show up, and I do need these traits, but I also need those lessons in softness. And that is the truth too. I think we all need those lessons in being soft, right? Not just soft on ourselves, not just soft on others, right? But just soft, right? When we're soft, the impact of the hiccups just don't seem so, while they're still important, but how don't we say impactful? Okay, you guys, I've got some thumbnails to do, you guys. I'm out of here. It wasn't on the topic of goals. Without sorting out these wires, without these understandings, right? How can we achieve our goals? Because we're just going to be stuck in our limitations, right? Just like I could have if I hadn't gone back into my live last night and watched it again for the lesson for myself. You guys, have a great day. See you tomorrow.